Nicky, Thackray, welcome to the interview. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Thank you for asking. Now, you're one of the fabulous experts on the True You hub. And it says here, I had to check because, I, as I said just before, all these experts and their expertise is all mind-blowing to me as a simple bloke. And it says here that you are a transformation coach and mentor, and an expert in meditation and all things Zen.
Yes, that's right.
I'm very sorry, but you need to explain to me what all that means.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Yes, and I can see, like in your words, as a simple bloke, how some of that might sound like total gobbledygook. But so the transformation coach, that's kind of what I lead with. So that is my main kind of core of my business and the core of the work that I do. So I work typically with women to create a transformation within themselves. So very often the women that I work with, they have quite a low opinion of themselves. So either they're struggling with confidence or they're struggling with feeling flat. Many of them are super high achievers. They are kind of executives in their own businesses or business owners, but they have this nagging imposter syndrome, and so we all know the imposter syndrome is the kind of inner voice that says, what are you doing? You don't really know what you're doing. Other people would do this job better than you, and that kind of thing.
A confidence thing.
It's the confidence, yeah. And so actually once I start to work with the people to really transform the way that they see themselves, then everything in their life changes because their perspective changes and their level and their capacity to believe in themselves changes. So it's such a gorgeous journey because you often get people who don't see the greatness within themselves and they don't recognize their own natural strengths as being strengths because they come so naturally to them that they think everyone's just good at this sort of stuff. And the truth is that they're not. And so actually getting them in as an adult, as kind of a fully grown woman to change the way that they look at themselves, because very often we've got this same vision about who we are in our heads from when we were like 6 years old. And actually when you have a look objectively at everything that the person's been through in their life and the success that they've had, the achievements that they've had, the strengths that they've nurtured, then actually quite rightly they can look at themselves with completely different, like through a different lens, and so it's that helps to build back up the confidence. And then the work we do as well is starting to dismantle some of the ingrained kind of beliefs and ideas that the person has about what a successful life really is, because very often people are striving to, tick off everything on the success checklist that says, I've got to have the big job, the big salary, the big house, the flashy car, the family, the husband, the whatever. And actually many of the people that, and I was the same as well, they tick off everything and then wonder why they're still not happy and start to think that there's something wrong with them, or why do I feel flat? Why do I feel like there's something missing? And very often it's because we've been chasing this checklist that someone else either handed to us or that we've kind of picked up and assumed that that's the way things are along the way. So being able to transform your own view of actually what a successful and a happy and fulfilling life means to you on your terms, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, and then setting about creating that's really kind of that's the hub of the transformation.
Interesting. I suppose, we're all subject to peer pressure from when we're, at school as a child, and this is the way you should do things and this is what you should strive to buy and so on. So we sort of have this narrow channel, don't we? And then I suppose that ends up in certain people's cases being restrictive.
Well, I think it does. And I think that it kind of, it's almost like these are the ingredients for a particular cake, So you have to have this and this and this, and if you do it in this way, then that's going to be the output, that's going to be the cake that you create. But actually a lot of people don't like that particular cake. They don't know it yet, but they don't actually like the taste of that cake. And so actually the ingredients that you need in your life to create the cake you do want could be very different to your next door neighbor, to your best friend, to your sister or your brother, or or to what your parents might have told you is a lovely cake and a lovely way to kind of live your life. And I think we are all so different, and yes, fundamentally we want to be happy, we want to be safe, and we want to feel like we're growing and thriving. But in terms of what that might mean for you, Tony, compared to me, these things might be really, really different. And so I think that through practices like meditation and mindfulness, and being able to turn your attention inwards instead of being constantly focused on the external world and what's everyone else doing and what am I, how do I look and all that kind of thing, but actually really going inside and spending some time with yourself just to see what comes up in terms of, well, who am I and what do I want, and what really would make me happy, and allowing those ideas and the pictures and the visions and the images to come forth. And I think that they can only really do that when you create that space and the stillness and the time, and give yourself the opportunity to ask some of those questions.
So is that all done through meditation or just an advice consultation? How's that work?
So meditation is a massive part of meditation is a massive part of everything that I do. And whether it's because I run my own membership, the Zen Lounge Sisterhood, and so that is very much meditation and mindfulness and Zen and well-being. And within the coaching, within the transformation program as well, it's always a case of building in things like visualizations and meditations, because it really helps the person to carve out the time and the space and that opportunity to ask themselves some of the really fundamental questions that I think we need to ask ourselves, so that you can make your decisions in your life based on what's going to move you in the direction of getting the thing or doing the thing or having or being the thing that you want. And I think if you don't ask yourself those sorts of questions, then yes, you can be plowing on in a certain direction, but you just don't know that once you get there, that it's actually going to be what you really want, or that it's going to fulfill you and make you happy.
I see. Yeah. How did you get into all this?
Well, so it was back in, when was it? Beginning of 2018. And I had hit burnout. I had a massive breakdown myself, because I had this lifestyle where it was years and years and years of eat, sleep, work, repeat, and I was exhausted. I was really physically exhausted, even though the work was never sort of physically demanding, but the stress, you can feel stress in your body, and it ages you, and it just makes you feel tense all the time. And so I had always kind of had a bit of an issue with stress, sort of since university and things like that. And so that was a thing. So stress and anxiety, that happened every once in a while. And so that didn't help at the point where I felt like I was in this real rut of doing, a job where the people that I worked with were great. The companies were great, but it wasn't work that I loved at all. Right. And I always felt like I should be doing something else, but I just didn't really know what it was. And so there was all of this sorts of stuff going on. And then eventually I realized that I didn't really like myself. I didn't actually really know myself. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to, like, who I wanted to be. And so it was just this kind of crisis point. And I had this really horrible breakdown, which took about 3 months to recover from. And it was in that period of time, in that 3 months, where I just felt like I was kind of on my knees, and I thought I need to sort myself out. And I went to the doctors, and the doctors offered me antidepressants, and I thought antidepressants is not what I need. I actually need to change my life, and the antidepressants are not going to do that. I need to actually change so many things about my life. and so many things about the way that I think and the way that I treat myself too, because I was this like crazy perfectionist, like a proper achiever. And I think that's why so many of the women that I work with are proper achievers. And they have the same sorts of challenges and struggles, you know, that I have had in the past as well, because like attracts like, you know, and so there was all of this huge pressure that I would put on myself. Nothing was ever good enough. Nothing was ever perfect enough. I was never skinny enough. I was never clever enough. I was never all these sorts of things. And it was a really stressful, taxing way of treating yourself. So all of that kind of came together, and that's when I hit the burnout. So I had a really excellent CBT therapist, who I'm still friends with to this day. You know, he was brilliant and taught me different ways of thinking. And a friend of mine suggested meditation, and I literally rolled my eyes and I was like, oh God, I need something that works. I don't need to just sit in silence. This is ridiculous. But actually, you know, at the point when you're a bit desperate and you think, fine, I'll try it.
Yeah. What have you got to lose?
I tried it and really quickly loved it. And I'd kind of dabbled in the past a little bit here and there, but the truth was that I didn't really understand what meditation was. You know, I'd kind of bought all of the myths about you've got to sit, you know, with your legs crossed, and you've got to make your mind go blank, and you have to spend hours for anything good to happen. And I'd believed all of that, and I couldn't do it, you know. And so it was only when I started to try it, and I started to like it, and I started to feel the difference it was making for me. And then I very quickly, probably within about 2 weeks, fell in love with it, because I started to really honestly like feel like I was returning home to myself, and starting to, even though I'd felt so lost about who am I and what am I doing and what is this life I've created, you know, like starting to really see and have that opportunity to go, actually, this is what I want, this isn't what I want, you know, or I want to do something different. And having that opportunity to allow those things to come forward without forcing it or without thinking my way into it, and you know, trying to get the answers right, but just allowing it to come up naturally, just made such a massive difference. And then I very quickly got into, you know, I was studying it. I was studying meditation, about how was it really helping me to feel so much better when I've had so much stress and anxiety and depression. And now I feel like this. And so I learned all about it. And I was a bit annoyed, actually, to find that there's so many studies about how it can really help to heal stress and anxiety and depression. And I was thinking, why at the ripe old age of 40 are we only finding this out now? Am I only finding this out now? More people need to know this. More people need to practice it. And so when I started talking to people, and I started doing some sessions at the company I was working for, and people were enjoying it, but very much they had also bought the myths that I had, which is meditation's a bit woo-woo, or, you know, you don't know if you're doing it right. Like, if you don't make your mind go blank, then it's not working. And so, and actually, they were the things that were getting in the way of people having their own kind of practice that they could integrate into their life, because they were kind of believing the, you know, the sort of stories about it. And so it was at the point where I thought, I'm not a monk, you know, I don't spend hours and hours a day doing meditation. I'm a busy mom, you know, at the time I had a busy job, now I have a busy business, and I've got all of the sort of things that are in a normal life and that a normal, you know, kind of woman has, juggling all the balls and all this sort of thing. And so I've had to get really creative to be able to build this practice into my life. And that's what I really wanted to share with other people, was to say, you don't have to make your mind go blank. You don't have to spend hours. You can get creative, and here's how I do it. But actually, the important thing is that you just try to find the pockets of time where you're building that relationship with yourself, when you're creating some calm among the chaos of your life, and build it into your life and let it be part of your day. Because once people start trying it and they start to feel the benefits for themselves, that's the sort of selling point of meditation. You know, they start to want more of what they're feeling and more of what they get from it. It's just it's an incredible thing. I mean, it completely and utterly changed my life, and it's such a pleasure to spend time with, you know, with the women that I do, where you can see it's changed their life. And it's not that I've changed their life, it's that they have cultivated this new relationship with themselves, you know, and they've learned how to turn inwards, and they've learned how to trust themselves more and respect and honor themselves more and love themselves more.
Yeah, that's good. Good answer. Thank you. How long did it take for you to fix you once you started down that route of meditation?
Well, I would say within the first few days, I could feel something. So I felt something shift. And then probably within about 2 weeks, I feel like I found my thing. And then after the whole burnout, it was about 3 months in total before I kind of got back into work and got back into sort of the normal day-to-day runnings of the business and family and all the rest of it. So
did you go back to the job that you hated?
I did. I went back to the job that I hated for around about. I didn't hate the job. I just knew I didn't want to do the job long term. Right.
But did you cope back at that job better after you'd done the meditation?
Massively. And what was so interesting was when I went back into it, I felt like a totally different person, because I now had all of these practice and skills and tools that I could use, that meant that I wasn't stressed all the time. And it meant that I didn't say yes to everything all the time. And I didn't, you know, beat myself up if I made a mistake anymore. And so there was a much more kind of compassionate version of myself that went back into the office. And I was there probably for about another year or so. And it was a different experience, you know. It was a much more balanced, it was a much calmer experience. But I would say, you know, people would be going off on their lunch and I'd be sneaking down to my car for 20 minutes to do meditation.
What did your colleagues say? Did they notice the difference in you?
Yeah, they really did. Just that I seemed calmer and happier. Yeah, you know, and more confident, and yeah, just the energy around me. But I felt it as well. I think what it gave me was this sort of a better level of trust in myself, because I knew I was looking after myself mentally and emotionally. You know, one of the best things about meditation is that it helps you alleviate stress and get rid of stress that gets accumulated in your nervous system. And I had never known before that time how you get rid of it. And so I was constantly bottling it up. And actually, you know, one of my friends at the time said it's almost like you were a bottle of fizzy Coke, you know, that's shaken and at any point it's just going to explode. And that's how it felt at the time. Right. And so actually what meditation did for me was to allow me just to gently unscrew the lid and let the gas out, if you know what I mean, like let the pressure out. Yeah. And so that it didn't build. So it created a very different energy within me, and I loved the fact that I had this little thing that I did that helped me to reset. So very often, you know, on the way to work at the time, I would pull over just on the side of the road. You know, I'd find a quiet street and pull over for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever I could afford, to just have that time. You know, or when I was coming home, I would pull up close to my house, but not at home, to just, again, take that opportunity to de-stress and just process things that had happened in the day and refresh myself.
So this is something that people would need to do intermittently or regularly for a long time, rather than just one quick fix.
Yeah, so it's definitely, and, you know, meditation, whilst I love it, it's not a silver bullet, because I genuinely think that there is no such thing when it comes to your health and your well-being. You know, you have to take a bit of a multi-pronged attack. You've got to be really proactive, and you've got to have, you know, a variety so that you don't get bored of different tools that you can go to for different reasons. So whether it's journaling, whether it's mindfulness meditation, yoga, whatever it might be for you, you've got to have different ways of being able to look after yourself and take proper care of yourself. And it's similar to if you wanted to become really strong and buff, you wouldn't go to the gym once for like a 10-hour session and then expect that that's going to see you through. And it's the same with meditation. I think it's like with most of the stuff that I teach, it's a decision that you make about, yes, I want to look after myself mentally and emotionally, as well as doing all of my physical stuff. But I want to look after my mind, and I want to look after my soul set. We're talking the 2U Hub about mindset and soul set and heart set. And so if you want to look after those things, then it has to be something that you integrate into your life. It's got to be a consistent practice. And the truth is, when it comes to meditation, if you think of it as an investment similar to money, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. And that's just the way that it works. So if you can find a way, even of just doing a few minutes every day, of tuning in, slowing down, focusing on your breathing, then you're going to be miles ahead of where you would be if you didn't do that at all. The kind of gold standard is, yes, daily meditation practice.
Okay. And would this apply to everybody? Because, we were talking earlier on in the interview about, people who, like yourself, who have been stressed and have all those knock-on problems, and therefore meditation's helped. How about those people who don't feel particularly stressed, who are very confident, for example? How can it benefit them as well?
Well, I think it would be an enhancement. It would be an enhancement for you, and it's one of those things where I would love you to just try it. So yes, it's well renowned for helping people with stress, anxiety, and depression, but it's also gaining more popularity with CEOs and with executives because of the benefit that it helps you to focus. So it also helps you to be more productive. It helps you to sleep better. It boosts your energy. It does all these sorts of things. So it's very helpful if you are needing to de-stress, but it's also very helpful if you could do with fine-tuning your focus and your concentration as well.
I suppose a lot of people wouldn't realize that they needed it until they've tried it, sort of thing. That's sort of the sticky point sometimes, is a lot of people will say, I just don't know if I need it. Or people who do need it and do practice it, then they start to feel okay. So then they put it down. But actually, it's one of those things. It's a minute invested in meditation is always going to be worth it. And even for the people who are confident and who are not stressed, just give it a go and just see if there's anything else that comes up. See if there's any ideas. Start asking yourself some of the questions. Like, what do I want? Yeah. Well, it sounds very sensible to me, as all the experts have been that I've spoken to. It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, how does this apply to me?
So do you do any meditation?
No, I've never done it. I mean, if I feel stressed, I just open another bottle of wine. But which isn't healthy at all, is it? But I try not to. But that's how life has been, and I think probably for lots of people, especially men, oh God, I've had a bad day, I'm going down the pub, sort of attitude, rather than looking for healthy ways to be helped.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that. I mean, and I am a wine lover as well, and I'm a fellow France lover. I love all things to do with France and wine. But I do think and I do think in general in life it's got to be about balance. It's got to be about balance. And so I would never advocate, that you just need to sit and meditate all day long and never drink wine. I think you need to love your wine, and I think you need to find a few minutes for meditation.
And preferably not at the same time,
Not at the same. It doesn't really work because you just fall asleep.
Well, that's what happens to me these days as well. Okay, what would you say to people watching or listening to this who are tuned into the True You Hub about what sort of help that you give to the membership?
So it's all to do with helping you carve out just a little bit of time for yourself, because what I tend to find is that women are not naturally great at giving themselves a little bit of time every day because they're busy. We are busy. We've got busy lives, homes, families, jobs, businesses, you name it. There's all sorts of things going on. But there are practices and tools and skills such as meditation and mindfulness, and with all of the other things that are being taught in the hub, that will actually really help to boost your own levels of inner calm, to really boost your levels of confidence, boost your self-image, and boost your self-esteem. And it's important to stick with these things, because once you start making tiny shifts and tiny improvements in all these areas and how you can see yourself, then that's when your whole world starts to change. Because you look at your environment, you look at your relationships, you look at your work and your friendships and everything, and you start to engage differently, because you're engaging from a different energy, which is the kind of energy of, I'm happy and I'm peaceful, and I trust myself to understand who I am and what I want and get it for myself. I'm not relying on anybody else. And so you turn up to your life, you turn up to your relationships in a different way. Where you know that you're self-sufficient, and you know that you're strong, and you know that you can handle whatever it is that life is going to kind of bring your way.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely fantastic advice. I'm really excited, but I'm not involved. I don't know how you do that. It sounds amazing. And thank you so much for talking to me and explaining what you do with the True Hub and elsewhere. It's brilliant. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me.